I want to know everything there is to know about you.
I am going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello and welcome to the Don't Know Her podcast. I'm Michael.
And I am Scott. And how are you doing today, Michael?
I'm very good. Do you know, we're approaching winter. We get to go to cinemas as they're open, having a wonderful life as usual.
Yeah, it's been good. I've been spending more time in the cinema. I've been neglecting it, but over the past few days, I felt like I've spent a good amount of time back in the cinema, and I'm just really enjoying that. I had a day off during the week, which has become unusual for me. And I went to the cinema to see a film we're going to talk about today, actually. And I just remembered how wonderful it makes me feel. I obviously like going with other people, but it's such a nice thing to do by yourself. I just feel like it's my little kind of safe haven where I just feel kind of rolled up in a blanket of loveliness. It helped by the film in question, but still great times.
Oh, totally agree. I love going to the cinema, but you're right. There is this one film which we both have seen that's been released in UK and Irish cinemas recently, Herself, which is kind of the reason we're talking about this person, who is, like all the other people we've talked about, someone who has been somewhat underappreciated or not been given the juicy roles in film that which we would love to see them do. So we're going to be talking about Harriet Walter.
Yip, 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 yip.
We will talk more about Herself in a bit. But Harriet Walter in general, like I remember as a kid watching Sensibility, the Jane Austen adaptation directed by Ang Lee, and she plays the villain character in it, or the antagonist, who is just so much fun. It's kind of like campy. She's really vicious. She's just has these great pieces of dialogue. And we watched that film regularly, like it was in heavy rotation in our house. And I just kept thinking, like, why have I not seen her in anything else? So, you know, the older I got and the more I watched movies and she'd appear in them, like she'd stick out to me. But it's just wild. It's wild that it's taken, like, really until Herself to have a proper great role in her career, like in her 60s.
Yeah, no, it's wild. She's a really interesting one. Maybe someone I wasn't really that familiar with. I didn't see Sense and Sensibility perhaps until, I mean, not that long ago, within the past handful of years for the first time. So oddly, it was a TV show called London Spy from, I think, 2015, a BBC drama starring Ben Whishaw about...
Woohoo! Or Swit Through is what I mean.
It will Swit Through it is. Because it's about this guy who falls in love with this mysterious fellow who turns out to be a spy, and then with that kind of a lot untangles, shall we say. But Harriet Walter is a really interesting part in that, and magnetic in ways which we will then cover in a lot of other things we talk about. But she is a curious one, and for that reason, she's really perfect for this. She's something, that Harriet.
Yeah, she has such an amazing face and voice, and
her voice.
because I've seen her on stage locally, and it's just, she is so impressive. Like the way she can just hold everyone's attention in a room. Yeah, I am a little bit in love with Harriet Walter and always have been. And because of Sensibility, like I've been in the same room as her and been petrified.
You're like, oh no.
But she said, by all accounts, she's a lovely woman in person. It's just my impression of like this very, you know,
conniving sneak.
Yeah, sort of character that's just in my head and I can't get away from it.
No, fair enough. But shall I give a little rundown on Ms. Walter?
No, please do, Scott.
No, we are not interested. No, of course we are. So Harriet Walter, she was born in London on the 24th of September 1950, meaning this episode is going to come out one day before a birthday celebration for her. So what a treat, and just another reason for us to be chatting about her. She is the great-great-great-granddaughter of John Walter, who is the founder of the Times newspaper. She's the great-great-granddaughter of opera singer Marie Carandini. And what I found to be most interesting, and I never knew this, is the niece of Sir Christopher Lee, the wonderful powerhouse film and theatre actor. So in terms of her kind of getting into the world of acting, she declined sort of a more formal education at university, I think at Oxford actually, to kind of travel the path of drama. And in that process was turned away from 5 different drama schools before she was finally accepted by the London Academy of Dramatic Art. She has worked a great deal along the way with the Royal Shakespeare Company throughout her career in productions from the early 80s, including Nicholas Nickleby, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Macbeth, Much Ado About Nothing, along with many, many others. She's won an Olivia Award for her stage work, which was Best Actress in a Revival for A Question of Geography. Does that sound right? I think it was a 3-hander, A Question of Geography, Twelfth Night, and Three Sisters. And she won Best Revival for that, I guess, triple-hander. And then, as well as that, she's had a further 2 Olivia nominations and a Tony nomination, which she got for Mary Stuart in 2005. She's also worked in all-female productions of Julius Caesar, Henry IV, and The Tempest, which was part of Phyllida Lloyd's Shakespeare trilogy, which she did along with the Donmar Warehouse, even though I think they took that to a temporary site around about King's Cross.
Yeah, it went to King's Cross in this purpose-built theatre when it was in the round. It was like, I was lucky enough to see versions in the Donmar Warehouse, which is quite a small theatre in central London, and then this bespoke space in King's Cross, and amazing productions. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I bet that was totally brilliant. So from there, moving away from theatre, she's had a lot of work in television throughout her career, most notably in, say, Law and Order UK, Waking the Dead, Downton Abbey, The Crown, where she played Clementine Churchill, Killing Eve, Call the Midwife, Ted Lasso very recently, and perhaps most excitingly to me, in Succession, where she plays the ex-wife of Brian Cox's Logan Roy and the mother of the other 3 leads, Kendall, Shiv, and Roman, and she is wonderful in it. But in terms of kind of her film career, that began with a film called Reflections in 1984, with other notable entries in her film career, including, as you said, the wonderful Sense and Sensibility. Let's just swoon some more for a second. Babel, Atonement, Cherie, The Young Victoria, A Royal Affair, Star Wars The Force Awakens, The Sense of an Ending, Rocket Man, Herself, as we've also mentioned, and the upcoming The Last Duel from Ridley Scott, which is going to be in cinemas this year. And then I guess another key point to Harriet Walter is she is a dame, and appointed to that in 2011 for services to drama. An interesting woman with a wonderfully varied and full career in TV and film and stage. She's done it all. But I'm excited to dive on into Harriet some more. So should we circle back to that wonderful film which you are so enamored with, Sense and Sensibility?
Well, yes, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. If people don't know the story of Sense and Sensibility, it's about the Dashwood sisters. And their father passes away, but it is his son from his first marriage that will inherit everything. So they will be penniless. So on his deathbed, their father, played by Tom Wilkinson in like such a small role, says to his son, please look after them. He dies. Cut to the son talking to his wife, Harriet Walter, who's like, who has such amazing dialogue. So we've not met anyone else from this world.
Mhm.
And it's just Harriet being like,
Help them? What do you mean, help them?
Dearest, I mean to give them £3,000. The interest will provide them with a little extra income. Such a gift will certainly discharge my promise, my father.
Question more than amply.
and she keeps like cutting this guy down, and we see them going to different locations and going through their day as this son and the brother is figuring out, like, what shall I do? And by the end, she's like,
Although, to say the truth, I'm convinced within myself that your father had no idea of your giving them money.
They will have 500 a year amongst them as it is.
And what on earth could 4 women want for more than that? Their housekeeping will be nothing at all. They'll have no carriage, no horses, hardly any servants, and will keep no company. Only conceive how comfortable they will be. They will be much more able to give you something.
And anyway, this continues till they meet, and they're like, they all meet in the house, in the family home, which they're going to take over. Harriet Walter and her husband, and pushing out the Dashwood family, Dashwood sisters. And it's just such a joy. Like, it sets the tone so well in terms of like this Jane Austen environment. Sets up like what I think Ang Lee does so well, like this dynamic between all the characters. Because she's coming in and she's saying, fuck them, like, I'm doing what I want, and this world is not good for women unless you're a woman that can control a man. And none of the Dashwood sisters or their mother have any kind of control. The film does, I mean, there's many reasons to love this movie. I'm just, like, I don't know how many times I've watched it, but I will be emotionally involved in the roller coaster of those sisters. So, you know, Emma Thompson plays the eldest and falls in love with Hugh Grant, but that can't happen for various reasons, and she's very quiet. She has all the sense. And Kate Winslet plays Marianne, and she's just like, she cannot hold herself back. She just has to like express everything, and she falls in love with an incredibly dashing Greg Wise, who always as well makes me swoon. But you know, that doesn't work out. And there's Alan Rickman, who's also playing like a very romantic, like lovable character, and it's just really about these sisters finding love and being heartbroken. And then you have people like Harriet Walter playing these fun parts, and Imelda Staunton like rushing in as this overly eager. Is she a friend? I see, this is the thing. Like, I understand the dynamic between everybody, but I honestly don't remember who the hell they are.
She's sort of like friend of a friend, and there's a lot of people in Sense and Sensibility. They're like friends of friends, and it's kind of looping into bigger folds of characters. And but she's very energetic.
Yeah, and Ang Lee knows perfectly well how to stage those scenes and those sorts of characters and relationships. It's such a joy. And I guess in terms of Harriet Walter, there's a competitor for Hugh Grant's affections, called Lucy Steele, and Lucy Steele gets into Harriet Walter's good books, and Harriet Walter is all about like supporting her and making sure that she is in good society. But when she realizes Lucy Steele has eyes for her brother Hugh Grant, she loses her shit. Like, it's just such a well done scene. So she's like,
it would not surprise me if you were to marry far and away beyond your expectations.
Oh, I wish that might be so. There is
a young man. Aha, I'm glad to hear of it. Is he of good fortune and breeding?
Of both. But his family would certainly oppose the match.
Hush. They will allow it as soon as they see you, my dear.
And the camera is like moving closer and closer and closer, and you know she's like she's like fishing, and she's like luring her in.
I've told nobody in the world for fear of discovery.
I am the soul of discretion.
If I dare tell,
I can assure you, I am as silent as the grave.
And then you focus on Harriet Walter's face as Lucy Steele whispers, like, your brother, Hugh Grant. Cut to, what, she like smacks her.
she starts flipping things over.
It's just
and-
like, oh my god! And they keep like, it's like they're such a like feminine sort of like old-fashioned sort of way of like, I don't know. I imagine two gay men in a stereotype kind of offensive skit would be
Yeah.
like slapping each other this way, and then Harriet Walter like grabs her nose to make Lucy stop smacking her, and then pushes her out the window or like this door. It's like, oh my lord! And then it's like all kicked off, and you're like, this is wonderful. And Harriet Walter's just so good, and her voice and everything. I just love it.
It is so good. She's very striking in it. She has this ghastly curled hair situation, like trickling down, not trickling, very deliberately on her forehead. These little loops of hair, and it just
It's
makes
like
her look.
any guy. It might happen to you too. When we were like teenagers, or when I was a teenager, and I didn't really understand Brill cream, I bet my hair sometimes looked like that.
I didn't understand Brill cream. God, you've just aged yourself by about 30 years. I love it. Oh, it's wonderful, and she is great. I mean, as we'll maybe get onto, I think Harriet is typecast quite heavily across her career and tends to play a type, and it tends to be these kind of stuffier, sharp-tongued individuals, which is the case here. But this is just so well written and perfect for her. Her plummy voice is just a delight. Like how she uses her amazing voice here is just fabulous. And the snobbery of her, she's just brazenly snob, and she just does it so bloody well. It's such a hoot. But this film is just absolutely brilliant. So I did watch it, like I was saying earlier, the first time only a handful of years ago, and I loved it then. But watching it this time, oh my god, it is heaven. This is probably my favorite film of that year now, 1995. I think it's just bliss. Everything about it is just gorgeous. And I think, like you're saying, Ang Lee has done an amazing job here and knows how to handle characters of this sort of volume. But Emma Thompson's script, I mean, obviously Jane Austen is a fabulous writer, and it maybe doesn't require that much to kind of translate it and make it engaging. But Emma Thompson maintains sort of the period element, maintains it doesn't feel like it's been made contemporary, other than the fact it's just laced with this wonderfully gentle but effective humor. And she's just fabulous in it as well. Like Emma Thompson at one of her best points in terms of performance here as well. Sense and Sensibility. If you have never seen it before, go and watch it, and you're going to have an amazing time. If you have seen it before, go and watch it again. You're also going to have an amazing time.
So I've only got amazing things to say about Sensibility, and Sensibility is full of performances. Like, there's not a bad one.
No.
I would say. Even you, Grant, when I was younger, I'd snobbily be like, "Oh, he's so wooden." But now watching it for this, I think he's actually he's just so wonderful.
And I mean, Hugh Grant does awkward incredibly well, and this just needs him to fully lean into that, and it just makes it just even swoonier and more romantic. It's just so nice how bumbly and cute him and Emma Thompson are in these encounters, and it's bliss. It's just bliss.
It's just so bliss. And Kate Winslet, who is someone who has developed a lot as an actor. Like, I do not think this is her best performance, but God, she's great. Like, she's just giving it so much, and there's this like youthful energy. Honestly, if I could watch it now and stop recording this podcast, I would.
No, that's it. It's one of those things that maybe I hadn't realized on first watch, but now I'm like, again, put it on. I'll put it on. It's going to become one of those films like it is in your life for me, where if I'm just needing that lift, Sense and Sensibility, it's coming on. It's charming. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
I guess you're right in terms of post Sensibility. Harriet has been typecast so much. So she's kind of part of the upper class, let's say, or sometimes like royals or wives of prime ministers and all this. Like it's just a shame. It's such a shame because she can do anything. Like the ones that are jumping out, like for this, I watched this film from the late 90s called The Governess, where Minnie Driver again is a penniless woman and has to comes into Harriet Walter's household to be a governess. I do not recommend this movie to anybody, but she's basically playing a less enjoyable villain, but exactly nearly the same as Sensibility. Like Atonement, like she's playing, the mother of the household, which includes Keira Knightley and Saoirse Ronan, and she's having this dinner party, and she is in charge and everything, and she's not, I guess, a villain, but she still is playing like an upper class kind of person with particular views on the world.
Yes.
She doesn't, even in Babel, which I couldn't remember her in Babel, so I was really excited to be like, oh, what will she do? She's on the bus with Cate Blanchett and Brad Pitt. They're all in Morocco doing this tour, and Cate Blanchett is shot in the chest, and they have to stop in a town. And Harriet Walter's part is to be like, we can't stay here. It's super dangerous. I don't care that your wife, Cate Blanchett, is dying there, Brad Pitt. We're getting back on the bus and you guys can stay here. I'm like, oh, that's not, it's not the sort of part, like anyone could do that. And that's not me discrediting her work, because it's amazing, but a lot of people could have delivered that line.
Yeah, which I think, and it goes back to a kind of recurring theme or word I use to describe a lot of the performers we talk about in this podcast, is that she is just so reliable. And that is both a blessing and a curse, in that she fills these roles and she does it magnificently because she's a magnetic presence. You want to look at her, you want to listen to her. She commands things, even if only for a few minutes. However, it's sort of like she's just too reliable, and therefore it's like, oh, she can do this little bit. And you're right, though. Someone else could do it as well in many of the cases of kind of films within her filmography. But yeah, in these ones it is, I remembered her being in Atonement as well much longer, but as you describe it's basically a dinner party sequence. And it's a very important scene within the film, because it's, again, one of these turning point moments within the story, and it's where the sort of the real kind of drama kicks into place, and she has such command over the situation. Her, as she's standing out the front of the house, in this moment where they're out looking for these boys that have gone missing, but a lot more is happening around it. She's just there in an incredibly commanding way. So I get it. I get why they have her involved, and I'm glad, anytime she shows up, fabulous. But sadly, a wasted talent a lot of the time in film.
An example, I guess, is A Sense of an Ending, in terms of it's a big part. So the story A Sense of an Ending is based on a Julian Barnes book, and it's about a man who, played by Jim Broadbent, who has inherited a diary, and it's about him reflecting on his youth and these decisions, and kind of a friend who started a relationship with someone that Jim Broadbent himself, as a younger person, was in love with, and there's a suicide. There's all that sort of thing going on, and Harriet Walter plays his ex-wife, but in a very supportive and very present in each other's lives.
Yeah.
But Harriet Walter is simply there to come in and out for Jim Broadbent to say, do you know what I was thinking?
Yes. She's sort of used as sounding board.
Oh, yeah, and even more, so if he's talking about something, there's this great moment where they've been having lunch, and all he's done is talk about himself. And she's been on crutches, her leg she's hurt in some way, and he's not asked her anything. And we keep doing flashbacks and whatever, and we cut back suddenly to them, and she's walking away. And what she says is pretty good. Like, it gets the story going. And for someone like me, who's like, who wants to listen? As much as I love Jim Broadbent and love his voice, I don't want to hear this kind of eaten memory type thing. Do you know, like, why don't get, the story's a bit bland for me. So Harriet Walter walking away and saying,
someone you knew long ago has left you something or other.
Exactly, which has been unduly withheld from me and to which I am legally entitled.
Well, you could fight it, or you can just let it go. Cash the check. Take me on a budget holiday. $250 each, get us to the Channel Islands.
Listen, the point
Something is certainly going on. matter. Just call me when you really want to talk about it.
Is really quite enjoyable to watch in the
Yeah.
film, which otherwise kind of gives this man, quite privileged man, a lot of time to reflect on his kind of conflict life.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's a very good way of summing it up. However, to kind of to flip it, she is again sort of playing a familiar type, but at least here it is meatier. And I am a sucker for films where they do maintain a good relationship between ex-partners. And their chemistry is really wonderful. She keeps him in his place. The first time we encounter her, she's kind of hobbling down the street in crutches. They're having this phone conversation where she's telling him he has to be there for their daughter's prenatal classes. And just the way she just cuts to the heart of it and makes sure he's put in his place and knows what he's doing. But still with this thing of like cutting it short, like, but we're not together anymore. Come on, just do it, and just wraps it up. And I love the balance of the love that is still there, but acknowledging the fact that they are no longer an item. And I just think she plays it wonderfully, but they just play off each other, her and Jim Broadbent, very, very well. I really like A Sense of an Ending. I think it's actually a good film, which did go fairly unnoticed when it came out. And I would recommend it. I think it's probably quite an accessible, I always use this term, but like a Sunday afternoon type British thinky film, digging into the past, resolving, these kind of memories and trying to piece things back together and finding these resolutions. And I think it does it very well. And the wonderful actress Charlotte Rampling is in it. And there's a lot of reasons to kind of sit down and watch it. And I think it's worth a go. But yeah, I was definitely into it. And even though it's still very familiarly her and kind of what we know of her to do, I sort of preferred this kind of role compared to other stuff. And then kind of going back to where she's maybe used more, unfortunately, in my opinion, as the kind of the shrill type elitist person, which she does in Sense and Sensibility, but brilliantly. But there's a film called Bright Young Things, directed by Stephen Fry from 2003. And fucking hell, I found it unbearable. Oh, it is so shrill. And I guess he's done a good job in that it is very critical of these people. You can feel the critical eye because they are a loathsome bunch. It's about these kind of well-to-do socialite types who are known for being very getting into kind of scandalized situations in the clubs of London and all of these things. Oh, God, it was such a snorefest. But she plays Lady something or another in it. And, oh, God, she's so shrill. I mean, she's fine and she's doing exactly what's asked of her again. But along with everyone else, it was kind of, no.
No, I would agree. I mean, I think I enjoyed it more. Like, it was happening, and there's a lot of great actors in it, but you're right. I would say the film is much kinder on those characters, like Fenella Woolgar, who is someone I really like, and a lot mainly from stage work, I guess, in London. But she plays one of the main kind of socialites, young socialites, is partying. But the film kind of paints her as a victim. She is a victim. It's like she's, because of her behavior and whatever, she's brought into an institution. And that's quite a large part of the film for a film that doesn't really focus on one character that often. And Harriet Walter's son is a very camp gay man who's caught out and is also has to leave. He's under threat, basically. So but I'm making it sound a little bit more detailed than...
No, but that's it. But no, there's a lot going on, and I think there's elements in it which should have really worked. However, it is loaded with lots of amazing actors. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. However, so many of them are unbelievably bad, like the worst I've ever seen them. Who you've just spoken about there, playing her son, Michael Sheen, is really, really yucky bad. David Tennant, ugh. Everyone, I literally think everyone. Emily Mortimer is so, oh gosh, oh god, it's just like, oh god, make it stop.
It is and Harriet Walter's bit, like one of my favorite parts of the film is like, oh, finally, here's Harriet Walter in this party scene. But then she's interrupted by Stockard Channing of all people, who's also like shouting. And it's like, what is like this film? There's a bit like Imelda Staunton turns up as a grumpy prime minister's wife. I wouldn't again recommend this. It's I don't think Stephen Fry's made another like cinema released film, right? And I'm not surprised.
You're right enough. Bright Young Things is the only thing he's directed. I thought he did direct Peter's Friends. Maybe he just wrote Peter's Friends, because he's obviously written quite a lot of things which have either been adapted or he did screenplays for. Yeah. But yeah, that is his only directorial film.
Yeah, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I guess, like, if I had money to give for somebody to make a film, I wouldn't be giving it to Stephen Fry after Bright Young Things. As much as I enjoy him as a personality and when he's turned up in some films. But okay, let's get to the film of the moment. I wish it was like literally of the moment in terms of the world was like focusing around this film. Because God don't like, I feel like everybody would benefit from a dose of herself.
Yeah, it's wholesome. It was a great thing to go and see on my own in the cinema. I felt like revived. I needed a day off for the longest time. I decided to take that eventually, and it was like a tonic. It was such a good experience.
So good. And I went to see it with one of my best friends, and you know when you're with someone and you know like you're emotional, but you know it's okay because they're emotional too. And also if you're that close, it doesn't really matter anyway if you're crying. But it's like, no, this is a communal experience. I just love it. So Herself is an Irish film directed by Philip Lloyd, who is a very celebrated theatre director, but in film is directed Mamma Mia and The Iron Lady, very different to Herself. And it follows the story of Sandra, who leaves an abusive relationship with two young girls, and is trying to get back on her feet, essentially. But the system, because she's homeless, isn't really allowing her to do that. So she's kind of desperate, and her husband, who she's separated from, is kind of lingering in the background of like, come back to me. And, you know, that she doesn't know what to do, what's best for her children. But anyway, she Googles, she finds a way to make a house pretty cheap. And the process of the film is basically this house being created. And Herself is Sandra. And Claire Dunn plays Sandra, also wrote it. And yeah, Harriet Walter plays her employer. So Claire's character is a cleaner for Harriet Walter. And her mother worked for Harriet too. And Harriet decides she'll give a bit of her garden, quite a large part of her garden, to this house being built. Harriet's character is pretty well off.
Sure.
So, yeah, and she'll lend her the money. And like in focusing on Harriet Walter, like what a joy to watch an actor who, as we've talked about already, has been underused or underutilized in much of her film career, to be given a part that's so meaty, but also has like is allowing her to really give it, like, bring her personality, or what we perceive to be her personality, and more. So she's cranky, like she also she's a doctor, and she has been I forget where she says where she's been, but anyway, she's hurt herself, so she's back. So she needs Claire Dunn to help her do lots of things, like get her around the house, etc. And it's just wonderful. I'm just so moved by this movie.
Yeah.
It feels like both like a hug, but also an education in
Yeah.
terms of how we should be nicer to each other and support each other and be kind.
Exactly that. Because it's not all like happy, warm. There's darkness to it. The circumstances of the main character, Sandra, she's put in obviously a very difficult spot, and the kind of flashbacks to her relationship with her, I guess, husband partner. Very problematic, horrible things for her to have gone through. But like you're saying, it comes back around to just the decency of other people. And I just I couldn't help but just be crying as it sort of unfolded. And just, I mean, it's obvious and it's, we have seen these kinds of films before, but just as more people are kind of volunteering their time to the cause, I was just like, oh God. And I just kept feeling myself welling up again and again and again. It's great. And Harriet is really wonderful in it because she's kind of using the both sides. She's using the side which we're very familiar with, which is the more prickly, hard-edgedness, which is what you see in the beginning of the film. But it doesn't take long for you to understand the tremendous warmth and generosity that's within. And I guess, like you were saying way back at the beginning about assuming she was a certain type of person by maybe what she was like in Sense and Sensibility, but then from other things too, until you hear her in interviews, like if you go back and listen to her Desert Island Discs, or other interviews, podcasts. She was on an episode of Mark Kermode's podcast recently. She feels incredibly warm, and there's a real sweetness and kind of a real gentle side to her, which doesn't always show on screen, but really does in herself. And she has such wonderfully heartwarming, maternal, loving moments in this film. And it was such a joy. And I kind of am also interested in the parallels with this film. So Claire Dunn wrote this, or was sort of pitching it around about a time that she herself was living with Harriet Walter whilst they were working, I think, in theatre together. So it kind of life kind of then projecting into this art and it kind of mimicking each other. And I think with that, you can tell that they have a real natural chemistry, which came because they had lived with each other before and they'd shared the space. And that is part of what is going on here. It is just it is a hug of a movie because it does reassure you in the decency of people.
There's a bit in the film where the people that are working on the house are grouped together, and one of the characters, who basically has been finding it hard to focus on the work, says, thank you for giving me purpose, and thank you for believing that I could achieve this. And this is a very minor character in the film, but God, like, I was broken. Like, there's so many parts to the film, and Claire's character is finding it hard to keep going through the day. And there's this moment where she's brought to the courts to defend kind of her choices in terms of her daughters and things that have happened. And Harriet Walter, this is the scene where I was like, well, God, Harriet Walter has to be cast in many more roles because of this. She basically takes Sandra aside, Claire Dunn's character, and says,
Sandra, you're building a home for your children. You're working day and night to give them a childhood that they've been denied. And then every weekend you have to drop them home to that fucker. Do they have any idea what that takes?
It's just like, yeah. And as you're saying, she has that softness, but also this real, like, strength where you believe, there's no doubting. If Harriet Walter says that, you know that it's true. No, it's a super film, and I really hope people go to see it, because it's a film that in January 2020 had just gone to Sundance and was this huge success. Distributors paid a crazy amount of money to get it. And then COVID happened. It was bought by Amazon, or it was distributed by Amazon in the US, kind of messed up distributing it. so in terms of like award recognition in the US is gone, like totally gone, totally missed the mark on what they were trying to achieve, if they were trying at all.
Mm.
I imagine BAFTA, like I imagine it will have some kind of impact in the UK,
Yeah,
depending.
and certainly British indie.
I would hope so, and it deserves to be celebrated. But it's not a film. It's a film that basically has really suffered because of COVID.
Yes.
More than most. Like you can delay your Black Widows or your James Bonds, but herself, you cannot regain that sort of momentum that it had back then. Because back then they were talking about it like for Oscars, and I guess it could have easily been an Oscar contender.
Yeah, no, it probably is. I mean, that's it. It has definitely missed the mark on that one now. But I think there was still faith in it. I did hear Harriet Walter say in an interview that she thought there was an almost blessing, if you can say that, from COVID, in that she sensed that there might be a hunger for going back to the cinema for a film like this. And I don't disagree. I just think it's still come out a little too early for that kind of appetite to be quenched, because there are still people who struggle with the thought of going to an environment like a cinema. So the people who would turn up for a film like herself are perhaps still not turning up for cinema in the live cinema experience type way.
But please do go see it. And if you are in the US, and I guess anywhere else, I don't know, it's on Prime already, on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Okay, before we break, because we love this TV show Succession, shall we talk a little bit about that? Because it's such a meaty role. It is tiny. She's barely in. She's in
Mhm.
2 episodes in the first
Two
season and
episodes
one in the
per.
second. Oh,
Yeah,
is she?
one
Okay.
or two in the second, but yeah, that's sort of the gist.
She's so good. She's so good as this distant mother who basically comes in as like for the wedding in the first one, and then they need her on side for something in the second.
Mhm.
And both times it's a bit of a show. Like it's all a show, this relationship.
Yes. Oh, it's firstly, if you are not on the Succession train already, get your arse on that train, because I just think it is the best thing on TV, or certainly the best American sort of mainstream show that's on television at the moment. 2 series so far. Another good reason to talk about Harry is that season 3 is on the way in. I think they've now said November, which is very exciting. And she is set to be in the 3rd series as well. But it's a for those who haven't seen it, it's the story of this kind of media mogul played by Brian Cox and his kind of dynasty as he kind of rules over this media conglomerate. And it's basically this like Shakespearean chess game of character maneuvers, family maneuvers to kind of one up each other to get to the top, as he is kind of thinking about stepping down. And I cannot praise this show enough. I just love it so much. But there's also this thing, and this is why Harriet Walter plays so well in it, and I hope for more from her, is that it's kind of got these main players at the forefront. You've got Brian Cox at the top as Logan Roy, and then you've got his 3 children, and then a few underliers as well. But then there are these kind of more distant underliers who you just sense are going to kind of crop up and be more of a player in the whole game of this all than you think. And I kind of hope that Harriet Walter does find a way, her character as this ex-wife and mother of the children, does find a way to kind of rise back through it, because she is being sort of put in this corner and only used when is needed. And like you say, the kind of relationship's a bit of a show. But she's just such a knowing and wise character who is wise to it all. And therefore you think she definitely could outwit the lot of them. And that is just that thing which Harriet Walter does so naturally. Ugh, I love it. I love it. I love the show, and I love her in this show.
She's amazing at moving between kind of maternal and then vicious. Like, I think there's many things I love about the show, but one of my favorite things is the wedding, where she is going around asking people, how long do you think it will last? So Shiv, who's the daughter getting married, comes up and is like,
Hi, Mom. I hear you're asking how long you give it.
Just a cheeky icebreaker.
Okay, well, it's pretty fucking horrible.
It's not all about you, Shiv. Other people need something to say.
Okay, well, can you ask them about the price of fucking fish instead?
When people ask me how long I give it, I say forever.
Okay,
It will be forever.
Well, thank you.
Or it'll feel like forever.
It's great.
It's just so well done. And she walks away, and then Shiv and her brother, they're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So yeah, she is good, and I'd love to see that sort of energy, or someone that would understand how to write a character around her strengths. To see that in a film, I would love it.
Yeah. Oh no, completely. All right. Well, that's a sort of dipped into kind of a few of her roles throughout the years, because there have been many, many, many. But sadly, I think of those we've missed, perhaps there's something like which we really shouldn't have missed that somebody can point us towards later. But for the most part, like in stuff like Rocket Man and many other examples, it's so tiny she's barely there, which is a huge shame. But dipped in, now let's kind of take it to quiz time. And
Exciting.
It's your turn to go under the spotlight in the game of life.
Yeah, well, I've been swatting up on Harriet. I feel confident.
Great, because it's barely about her.
It may not be about Harriet, but I'm still going to keep confident. Stay confident.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you're confident, because in succeeding in this quiz, you basically win her the ultimate power play in Succession, season 3. So it's really important for us and everyone that you do succeed here. No pressure.
No pressure. Okay.
Okay, but we're going to start with a little bit of a Harriet warm-up. So, which of these actors has Harriet not yet worked with? Okay? So I've got a list of 5. Which of them has she not yet worked with yet? So we've got Michelle Pfeiffer, Liv Tyler, Anne-Marie Duff, Jodie Comer, and Alicia Vikander.
Okay, Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm going to say they have worked together.
Okay.
And Sherry, obviously. Sorry, it's all coming to me as I'm answering the question.
It's all coming back to me now. Yes, Sherry, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Harriet.
Liv Tyler, I just cannot think of one, but she's a real random person to put in this list. So I feel like they have to have been in a film together. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Third, who was third? Jodie Comer. Okay, they were both in Killing Eve, Jodie Comer and Harriet Walter.
So we have left, we have Anne-Marie Duff and Alicia Vikander.
So she definitely was with Alicia Vikander in the Royal Affair. Sorry, in my head I was going to say the Royal Tenenbaums. I was like, I wish both of those people were in that movie.
A Royal Affair, yes, the Danish film also starring Mads Mikkelsen.
Anne-Marie Duff. Okay, it must be Liv Tyler, because Anne-Marie Duff must be in the whole, like, in the spectrum of British films and the films. Even it's going to be a movie I've watched for this, and I won't have remembered Anne-Marie Duff, who I love, was in it. Was she in Brightly Young Things?
Okay, so what are we going with Anne-Marie Duff?
I'm going with Liv Tyler.
We're going with Liv Tyler as... Okay,
yeah.
So for question number 1, you are wrong. You whittled it down to the final 2. So no, she has never been with Anne-Marie Duff. Liv Tyler, she was in a film with called... God, I couldn't even pronounce it. It's either Onegin, Onegin.
Oh yes, I was reading about it. I couldn't tell you how to pronounce it.
Onegin. Russia,
Yeah.
1820s.
Yeah.
Onegin inherits his uncle's country estate and moves there from St. Petersburg. So Liv
Yeah.
Tyler and Ralph Fiennes are the leads in that. Anne-Marie Duff? No, but you would have thought so. So I'm glad this method has worked. So that's awkward. Off to a bad start. But let's try the same again. Same thing here again. But we're going to go for the boring men. So, Dan Aykroyd, Richard E. Grant, Mark Strong, Jude Law, and Gail Garcia Bernal.
Ooh, so Dan Aykroyd and Richard E. Grant, Bright Young Things. This is my problem with men and male actors. I would say men in my life. I will remember names. But don't test me on that either. On the third one, who was the third? Jude Law.
Mark Strong, Jude Law, and Gail Garcia Bernal.
So Mark Strong is in the young Victoria. Gail Garcia Bernal was in Babel. So it's Jude Law.
It's Jude Law. Well done. Process of elimination. You succeeded. Yeah, Richard E. Grant was also in a film called, in the UK, I believe it's called Keep the Aspidistra Flying. In the States, it's called A Merry War, with Helena Bonham Carter. But yes, also.
God, the 90s were a wild time when they made like some of these films. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, love it. But okay, so of that first portion of the game, you are halfway there. So basically, if you smash it in this next segment, like I think you will, then Succession season 3 and onwards, what a time for Harriet it shall be. Okay, so I call this game Nothing Like a Dame. So with Harriet Walter, we're talking about our first dame. I have quite a long list here. We have 15 dames. I'm going to give you 3 of their films, and you just need to tell me which of the dames is in those 3 films.
This is honestly my dream game. I'm so excited. I am so thrilled to be alive right now.
Okay, thank heavens. Okay, so we're going to start off with an easy one. Notes on a Scandal, Chocolat, and Mrs. Brown.
Well, it's not Eileen Atkins. It's Judi Dench.
It's Judi Dench. Ding, 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 ding. He's off to a triumphant start. But it might get trickier from here. Let's try number 2. The Princess Diaries, Shrek 2, and Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Well, that's Dame Julie Andrews.
That is Dame Julie Andrews. How did I ever think that would trip you up? Because you, sir, are a gay man. That is correct. Ding, 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 ding. All right, number 3. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Beauty and the Beast, and the Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, one of the best is Dame Angela Lansbury.
Murder, She Wrote. Yes, you're right. That's Angela Lansbury. 3 for 3. Ding, ding, ding.
You're just reading my guest list to my my dream dinner party guest list. That's what you're reading out now.
Exactly. And it only gets better from here. Number 4. Cold Mountain, What a Girl Wants, and Gosford Park.
It's the woman I joked about earlier, Eileen Atkins.
You're always shitting on her. It is the one, the only, the wonderful, even though Michael tries to say differently, Eileen Atkins.
Okay, whoa. When I say I'm only joke because there's a documentary called Nothing Like a Dame.
Hence the name of this segment.
She kind of apologizes, or not apologizes, but she's like, why am I here with Maggie Smith, Judi Dench, and Joan Plowright? I've been lucky enough to meet her in person and have a conversation with Eileen, and Dame Eileen, and she's lovely. Yeah.
Oh, even better. So Dame Eileen, a welcome entry at number 4. Correct again. 4 for 4. Let's move on to number 5. We have Taming of the Shrew, The Flintstones, and National Velvet.
Love your choices. That is Dame Elizabeth Taylor.
The one, the only, Dame Elizabeth Taylor. He is 5 for 5. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, here we go. Red, Hitchcock, and the cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover.
That would be Dame Helen Mirren.
Oh, as if it's all too easy. The Queen herself, Dame Helen Mirren. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, here comes number 7. This one is a doozy. A room with a view, private function, and the pumpkin eater.
Oh, the dame of all dames is Maggie Smith.
You got it. If you were going to trip on that one, I would fly myself to Dublin to throw you out of a window. Correct. Dame of all dames, Dame Maggie Smith. 7 for 7. Here we go, and this is where it maybe gets trickier, but I know you're going to get it anyway. But let's try. Number 8. The Painted Veil, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Evil Under the Sun.
That is Diana Rigg.
Dame Diana Rigg. Ding, 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 ding. You're doing so well. You're doing so well. Number 9. A Passage to India, The 39 Steps, and Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Dame Peggy Ashcroft?
Dame Peggy Ashcroft. Yeah. Oscar winner, Dame Peggy Ashcroft. You are 9 for 9. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, number 10. In the House, Richard III, and Only God Forgives.
If this is like the climax of this game for me. This is a woman who I can say nothing bad about, Kristen Scott Thomas.
Kristen Scott Thomas. The sneak entry for those who don't know she's a dame, but she bloody well is. Correct! 10 for 10. Kristen Scott Thomas. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, it doesn't end there though. We've got 5 more to go. Can you do the full set? Let's find out. Number 11. We're back to the Flintstones with the Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas, The Time of Their Lives, and The Virgin Queen.
Dame Joan Collins.
Oh, I thought I'd get you there, but yes, it is. The Queen of Dynasty herself, Joan Collins. Ding, 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 ding. Amazing work. 11 for 11. Imagine everything's getting very tense. The lights have dimmed, and here we go for number 12. Peter's Friends, The Meyerowitz Stories, and I Am Legend.
I think you're tricking me now, but it's Dame Emma Thompson.
Dame Emma Thompson. Of course she's a dame. Why would she not be? 12 for 12. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Number 13. Enchanted April. Tea with Mussolini and 101 Dalmatians. The Glenn Close live-action version.
I thought you were going to say, and Glenn Close is standing. I was like, I would absolutely love to see Joan Plowright stand-in as Glenn Close in any of her movies. Joan Plowright, who is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Love her too.
Gorgeous. And you're correct with that, Joan Plowright. Ding, ding. Here comes number 14. The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Brief Encounter, and I Believe in You.
That's Celia Johnson, yeah.
Oh, it is Dame Celia Johnson, of course. How could we forget the star of the wonderful Brief Encounter? Celia Johnson, 14 for 14. Only one to go. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. And number 15. I know you're going to get this one, but it's just for fun. Here she goes. Carry On Camping, Sparrows Can't Sing, and Alice in Wonderland.
You break my heart. This is like herself. So this is an all-time... Like, honestly, this woman made me gay. No. No, I'm obsessed. So is Dame Barbara Windsor. And why I say she makes me gay, or made me gay, is her characters in the Carry On series, which alone probably would have had enough impact on somebody as a kid. But also EastEnders, where she played the landlady, Peggy Mitchell, who just says, who has amazing, campy dialogue, like nonstop. She's wonderful.
Heaven. That's why I saved her for last. I knew you were going to appreciate that. Get out of my pub, Michael. 15 for 15. Barbara Windsor is correct. Ding, 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 ding. So lucky for us, Harriet Walter is going to be the one to watch.
She is. The Succession.
She is The Succession.
It's the titular role. That's what
Oh my God. And that's it. She's going to walk up to Brian Cox and go, I am The Succession. And then that's the end of season 3. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. We've ruined it.
She'll stab him in the back and say it. I love it. It'd be very Shakespearean. But I guess, like, now, as we usually do, alongside the Succession dream scenario, what else were you thinking you'd like to see Harriet do?
I found this one actually really tricky when it should have been really easy. Because she's been so typecast, I was so desperate to fight against that. However, and shame on me, I think I have bought into it a little bit as well. But saying that, I'm going to kick it off with something she in the past has said she wants to do. And I just think it's too irresistible, if a little obvious, but it wouldn't be obvious in the context of this series, is she has said that she wants to be a Bond villain. And I mean, we might get something not dissimilar if we get what we want for Succession. However, Harriet as a Bond villain, oh my God, it would be, she could be both terrifying, but have that just sort of off warmth, like we have seen before, but she would just make it even better, more of a killer approach to it. Like, oh, I don't know, if you take that, like the creepiness or something like Javier Bardem and like Skyfall, she could really lean into doing something really off the mark and be like creepy, sinister, not just like woman at the helm, like villain. I think let's play into creepy, and then that can challenge her, and then that's something we've not seen so much, but she could do it. I can imagine her being flirty and gross, like a grotesque villain in Bond.
She would eat that up.
And as she should.
So good.
But yeah, that's what I'm kind of putting for number 1, which does tie in with the Succession thing, as we've just done. Also, up in the game for Succession is something I want for her future anyway, but that goes without saying at this point.
In a similar way, I was thinking I'd love to see her in sort of a thriller, and I was trying to think of like female-led thrillers I really rate or really enjoyed whoever's the lead and what they get to do. And Elle with Isabelle Huppert jumped into mind, of course. But I was thinking like, there are, you could, Elle is a story of a woman that is assaulted and of her revenge on this occurrence happening to her. I think there's something more nuanced you could do, let's say, with that character. And I was thinking, the director of Raw and Titan, is that how do you say that title?
I think so. Titan. That sounds right. Yes.
Yeah. So, which won the Palme d'Or? So Julia Ducournau, is that how you say it? I'm so bad. But I was thinking, like, imagine her doing this kind of Elle-esque thriller of a woman of a certain age, taking it upon herself to sort shit out because society won't do it for her. And Harriet Walter would be such a joy to watch in that sort of role. And just the energy of, sad, I've not seen Titan yet, but Raw, like the energy of that would fit so well. So yeah, that was one of my thoughts.
I think that's amazing. That also, what a director to be keeping your eyes on. If you've not already got your eyes on Julie Ducournau, pay attention. Great suggestion. On the flip of that, though, I am going to say, kind of inspired by herself, or certainly kind of well, no, not the latter half. She's always kind of softer in it than we're perhaps used to. But I just want to see that softer and funnier side. So I guess we got the humor in Sense and Sensibility, but since then, not often enough. Or if it's been there, it's been in a kind of more nuanced within a drama context. But I would like to see her softer, funnier side in something. Now, I have now traveled into a very, very obvious terrain, but then I will move away from it, but I still have to say it because it does sound irresistible. Leaping on from our past segment, Nothing Like a Dame, I would love to see her in something like a Best Exotic Marigold Hotel 3.
Yeah, love it.
Which would be lovely, and she could play the softness, and she would just be a perfect fit like that, but that's almost too easy. That's too easy a suggestion. However, I still imagine they probably use her as being the kind of sharper character, but I'd want them to kind of soften her up and just let her be really funny in it, because I reckon with the right material, she would be an absolute hoot. But other than that, just something similar with all the dames. I'm just sticking with this dames thing. Maybe like a raucous older women Brits abroad comedy. They go on like a holiday to Benidorm or something like that and just fuck shit up and have a good time. And
Yeah.
that would be wildly off piste for Harriet Walter, and
I'm thinking,
therefore
so
it would be a great time.
instead of Girls Trip, it would be called Dames Trip.
Yes, it would. The dames go to Magaluf.
I love it.
Harriet Walter, Maggie Smith, God, Joan
Kristen Scott
Plowright, whoever you
Thomas.
want, Kristen Scott Thomas, of course. Oh, off they go to Magaluf, and they're just having a time on the banana boats. They're clubbing
Now
out
I'm imagining
3 in the morning.
Barb and Star.
But
all these movies.
No, but not as like abstract and odd. I love Barb and Star, but not so much that vibe is just, I don't know, fun Brit comedy yumminess.
What, like Carry On Dames? Is that the...
No, not even so much that. Not even so much that. But I would want it to be a bit saucier than your likes of the Best Exotics. I would want it to be a bit of a saucy number. I want them to get raucous. So
I love it.
That's my pitch there. But other than that, like, can you think of? I was trying to wrap my head for like a filmmaker who is known for a more gentle sensibility, because I couldn't quite think of who I was trying to get at.
So I have listening to her Desert Island Disc, she talks about someone she studied with, Ian Charleson, who died of AIDS-related causes in 1989. And she talks about seeing his production of Hamlet. So as he was dying, he played Hamlet on the Olivier stage, which is named after Laurence Olivier, and it's the biggest stage in the England's National Theatre. And something like clicked in my head of I'd love her to be part of this, like that story to be told, because I think could work very well on screen.
Wow,
But
okay.
Terence Davies, who's this really just so he's really underrated, I'd say, but he's a really talented director who I know you love. Yeah, so he would bring out so much, I think, of Harriet Walter, because she has such a great face, which seems really underused in terms of film and TV even. Because Terence Davies kind of, it's almost like he floats around stories and he lingers, and like House of Mirth or I mean, there's so many. I highly recommend people check out Terence Davies as a filmmaker. But I was thinking that, and I was thinking he would be a great person that would understand how to utilize Harriet Walter.
No, that's literally perfect. I asked you a question and you delivered in spades, because he does that so well. The Long Day Closes is my pick for favorite Terence Davies film ever, even though there's not a bad one amongst them. So great. That's perfect.
And that story, so Judi Dench actually was in that production of Hamlet. So I was kind of thinking maybe Harriet Walter could play that part, or she could play a stage manager, which is if people don't know, theatre is a very important part of the theatre production.
You have to pitch this.
If I was talented enough or had enough focus, that's the script I would write. I just think it's just such a great setup for a story.
Yeah, that's literally amazing. That would be heaven. Oh, I love it. Oh, I can't really do any better than that. I mean, I'm going to just move into thinking about someone to sort of carry her along. My kind of final wish was to have her connect with a director who does a variety of things, but would continue to use her. And I mean, she has had that before. She obviously works with Phyllida Lloyd and in terms of theatre, and now in the film herself. But a kind of maybe an American film director who does a real variety of stuff. And 2 names came to my head, and they're very, very different, but I could see her fitting into their stuff, both the lighter side of what they do and the darker side. So the first one is Lisa Choladenko, who directed The Kids Are All Right, as well as the amazing Frances McDormand TV series Olive Kitteridge a few years ago, and has done a lot of kind of darker TV stuff quite recently as well. High Art, Laurel Canyon, lots of interesting films with females at the center. And they both allow lightness and darkness in. And she's a director who's worked with like Frances McDormand quite a few times. I could see she's the kind of person who's interested in kind of using the energy of people who are reliable and great, but giving them really different stuff to do. So I would call out for, I don't have a specific idea, but a next Lisa Choladenko film or TV series would be amazing. And then the other one, kind of a flip to that, but again, wildly different tones of what they do, and they jump around so much, but always make interesting work, whether the films are good or not. And again, someone who repeatedly works with people is Steven Soderbergh. And I kind of got to him thinking of Meryl, and this goes then both ways. So I don't want something like this to happen, but you've got Meryl Streep in The Laundromat, where she's playing like a rubber-faced Bo Selecta Latina character, and it's heinous, big problem, should never have happened. It's so fucking weird that it happened. It's gross. However, he then used her in Let Them All Talk, which was his film set on the cruise line, which we've talked before about on this podcast, and is divine and perfectly used in it. But Soderbergh just does wildly different things from turn to turn. Around every corner is something very different, but always done through kind of his prism of interests and tastes and style. And I think she would be a great addition as someone who would kind of counteract a lot of what he does and would be a different type for him to work with. They would challenge each other, and I would just be fascinated to see what they would do together. And just kind of riding that together and then going like, okay, now we do this. Now we take a massive swerve and we're going to do something wildly different because you were so good last time. So let's do it again, which is something that Soderbergh has done throughout the years in returning to performers. So that is kind of, I know maybe an abstract way of thinking, but in terms of her not being utilized enough, I want her to be harnessed with a great filmmaker. And those are two amazing filmmakers.
Yeah, and that's interesting what you're saying about Soderbergh, because in a recent interview she was doing, she mentioned The Last Duel and talked about Ridley Scott, and she talks about Ridley Scott and herself not seeing eye to eye on her character.
Yes.
So she's playing a character in her 60s, and she said, and not in a like gossipy sort of like
no, she was
way.
fully on board with Ridley Scott. She was a big fan.
But so she was championing him as a visual storyteller and understanding the bigger scope, but not understanding actors quite as much. So that's what the only reason I'm saying. Like, I'm not sure. I don't think she was the biggest it didn't come across like, oh my God, I'd want to work with Ridley Scott again. But she did. What she was saying was, or what I was getting from it was what she brings to a project, which I think someone like Steven Soderbergh would get a lot out of. He seems to listen to his actors. So I think that's a really good shout. And let's hope like The Last Duel is a good part. Like, she wasn't at the Venice premiere and things like that. So it kind of insinuates it's not the biggest part. But then is there room on the red carpet when you've got Matt Damon, Bennifer, and that's Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, for those somehow not in the know, and Jodie Comer. So yeah, maybe they just didn't have a budget for Harriet to be in attendance too. So yeah, I do feel like with all the TV work and all the, she got an Emmy nomination for a guest part in Succession. I just feel like it's all going the right way. And also someone's going to have to get the Maggie Smith, Judi Dench parts when they're no longer with us, even if like I cannot believe that would be
it's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
But hopefully she'll get those. It'll be like her, Imelda Staunton, Kristen Scott Thomas, Celia Imrie. There'll be that gang.
Oh no, not
Emma
a bad
Thompson.
gang. A gorgeous gang.
No, the best gang. So yeah, what a joy to talk about.
Yeah, this was a good one. I think this was a nice kind of sort of return to maybe the kinds of people we thought about when we first started this podcast. And not like we veered off from that, but I just think she's kind of right at the heart of where we started with the likes of Celia Imrie. So I was really glad to talk about Harriet Walter, who was someone who I hadn't thought about too much, even though I've always found her wildly impressive. So a great choice.
And I cannot wait, and we should go see her on stage whenever she does stage work again.
Please.
That things are opening.
Yes.
She's just she's just so impressive. But yeah, so I mean, I guess to summarize, check out herself, check out Sense and Sensibility, and just appreciate her more. And before we go, because I cannot believe I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I remember being in the Force Awakens screening. You know, I was there opening day, all this sort of thing.
Midnight screening. I was there.
Enjoying all of it, and then you spot these like British actors like Michaela Cole and all these people. But Harriet Walter being a doctor that looks after Chewbacca and has like proper lines of dialogue with him, like absolutely. Like what a I feel like that must have been put in for like gay people like us to be like, look, we understand what you need. Yeah. Do you know, like, we're sorry in the prequels that we made C-3PO like a very small part of the whole thing, like in the first one in particular. But now we're just going to give you more. We're going to give you Harriet Walter as a doctor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really wanted her to be a bigger part. Imagine if she like turned up in like all of them as a doctor, because they're all injured at some point. That's what I wanted.
She should have just kept flitting around. But hey,
well, there'll be a Disney Plus series, whatever her name was, Doctor whatever, and it'll just be about her surgery.
Oh my god, I absolutely would watch that.
Well, she'd get so much gossip. She'd be like, "Oh, did you hear what happened to General Leia? Oh, you won't believe that." Harrison Ford or Han Solo's come back. Oh, ooh.
And any dishy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm all for that. So where can people find us, Scott?
So if you do want to give us a smack around the chops for missing out on a film which we really should have watched for some Harriet time, or you've just got a suggestion of someone we should cover down the line, you can get us via email at don'tknowherpod@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram or Twitter at don'tknowher_pod.
And please do rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts, if you can. And we do ask if you can share us on to just one other person that you think would get something out of this podcast series. That would be super helpful to get us out there. And yeah, thank you, Scott, for spending this time reflecting on this great actor.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for bringing our first dame, and what a wonderful one. But yes, I will see you next time. Have a blessed whatever time of day it is with you. Till next time.
Bye. Bye-bye. See you later. Bye.